Happy fall, everyone. Blessing Maybon to all. It is now officially soup season, and I have decided to do a steak and ale soup. And I was trying to do a bread bowl, but you'll see in a minute that didn't quite work out. So I found out which ingredients that I need, so now I'm just heading to the store and picking up some supplies. We got the mushrooms here, got some onions, and then, of course, I can't forget about my little corvid friends, so I got peanuts for the crows. I need some garlic. I was out, so I needed to get a few pieces, or a few bulbs. One beer for the steak and ale soup. If I were, and then some beer for a moment. If I were to do this again, which I will, I would use a dark or an amber beer. So like a Guinness or a Fat Tire or something like that. I used ribeye. I understand that these are super expensive, but I was following the recipe and it called for ribeyes. Delicious cut of meat, so tender. It was amazing, and I would definitely use it again, money permitting. But yeah, so use whatever, leaner cuts, I guess. I don't really know, honestly. Anyways, I can't cook unless the kitchen is mostly clean. So here I am doing stuff and things. I'm probably doing it better than I normally would because you guys are watching. So we're going to try and make the bread. I tried to do a little transition, but it didn't really work. So we got yeast, we got sugar, and we got 2.5 cups of warm water here. And then you're going to let that foam up. Whisk it all together. And then we're going to cover it with a towel and let it rest for about 15 minutes until it gets all foamy. And then from there, we're going to add 5 to 7 cups of flour. My issue with this bread is that I used an ancient grains mix instead of all-purpose or bread flour. And so this became a lot more dense than I wanted it to. And also, I don't think I used enough salt because it wasn't flavorful enough. But all in all, it was a fine loaf of bread. But there's some difference that it has compared to all-purpose flour. So here's most of my ingredients for this soup. Excuse all the shenanigans in the background. But I took the bones off the ribeye as well as some of the fat, and I rendered that all down. Once that was done, I strained it, and then I put it in a bowl and put it in the fridge. So now I have beef tallow that I can use for cooking. So here I'm browning my steaks, and once the browning is done, into that oil we put in the onions, the mushrooms, and let that simmer down until about 10-15 minutes in, until they're a nice, goldenish color, translucent onions. And then from there, we're going to add the garlic, and just a few seconds, 15-20 seconds until it becomes aromatic, and then we're going to put the herbs in. I also added some fresh herbs to this from the garden. I added sage, parsley, and rosemary, and some thyme, but I didn't show that. Here we're going to put in the ale, and from there we're going to let that simmer until it thickens, and then we're going to add a couple tablespoons of that same flour until it gets all nice and thick. And from here we start adding that broth, and I use goose broth because that's what I had on hand, and goose is a darker meat poultry, and it actually worked really, really well. I would highly recommend making your own goose broth. So we're going to simmer it for a while. I don't know, let it reduce a little bit. Here we got some bread. This is what it looked like when it had risen. I added some herbs into it as well. And then we're going to bake that for about half an hour, 45 minutes. Here we're going to add the steak and the juices back into the soup. There's that dense piece of bread. It literally was like a brick. And here we go. There's the final result. It was delicious.